Hi, I'm Wes, professional player from Team Infinite Mana, and I welcome you all to the first episode of the GU quiz. In each episode you have to answer 5 different questions that will test your Godsunchained knowledge. Do you think you can get the perfect score, mortal? When you play Me Too 3 on an Umber Arrowed creature, it will shuffle 3 copies of that creature in the opponent's deck. When your opponent plays one of those creatures, will it return to your side of the board at the end of the turn? To figure this out, we first have to play Umber Arrow on the enemy creature. When we follow that up with Me Too 3, it will shuffle 3 copies of that creature in the opponent's deck. Because the opponent's deck was empty, he now only has those 3 cards in his remaining deck. Now the opponent plays the first creature and he draws 2 cards, so he can play another one. Now check this out. They both move to our side of the board at the end of the opponent's turn. This is because we shuffled the creatures in the opponent's deck before our end of the turn, so they still had this unfinished Umber Arrow effect on them. If your opponent is unaware of this interaction and when you made the right preparation, you can surprise your opponent with a very interesting lethal. Spiral Golem is an interesting Genesis card. It has the highest base stats of any creature you can play for 6 mana, and at the start of your turn it attacks a random enemy creature. So when we have Spiral Golem on the board, we should be able to play a card such as Bushwalker to give it Twin Strike and +2/+2. Now when the opponent plays some creatures at our start of the turn, it should attack one of the creatures, and because of the Twin Strike it should attack a second creature. When you give Spiral Golem Twin Strike, it will attack 2 random enemy creatures at the start of your turn. It's incorrect, let me show it to you. So first we play Bushwalker to give Spiral Golem +2/+2 and Twin Strike. The enemy plays City Planner, and as his card description says, the Spiral Golem will attack a random enemy creature at the start of the turn, but won't attack a second creature automatically. You will get the second attack because of the Twin Strike. You can even go face. If you would like to buy one of these interesting cards, head over to aqua.xyz. Go to Godsunchained and just type in the name of the card you want. Here you can see easily the price history of every card. And one of Aqua's best features has to be that they will show you which currency gives you the best price. Click on purchase and now you're the proud owner of one of the best cards to mess with your opponent. Massive shout out to our partner Aqua for making this video possible. Take them all on can be a fantastic board clear. When you play Grendel and take them all on, will it kill every enemy creature with less than 4 health, including the creatures they will spawn because of their afterlife? Right now we have Grendel on board and take them all on in hand. The enemy has 5 creatures on board. 3 of those creatures have an afterlife effect that will spawn a creature. Let's see what happens. As expected, it will attack all enemy creatures on board in a random order, including the hidden creature. Grendel didn't attack the creatures that spawned from the afterlife effect. That's because they spawned after the spell effect of Take Them All On had ended. Tempt Fate is a keyword introduced with the Mortal Judgment expansion. This keyword is for the risk takers out there, providing a comfortable buff or a chance at more. The only problem, if fate isn't on your side, you're left with nothing. To get a competitive advantage over your opponent, it's always important to know your options. Do you know how many different Tempt Fate buffs there are? There are 6 buffs in total. You can get all these buffs in different combinations. Let's have a look at these Tempt Fate buffs, shall we? You can tempt fate to give your creature afterlife, summon 1/1 imp, +1 health is the second option. Overkill and ward can show up as well. And the last two buffs are Twin Strike and hidden until the start of your next turn. At the start of every game there's an important decision you have to make. Which god power are you going to choose? In the last few years they've introduced us to some new god powers. Some god powers were removed from the game and some god powers have been changed entirely. That brings us to the last question of this video. What is the highest amount of god powers you could choose at the start of the game in Godsunchained history? Right now, when you queue up for a game, you have to choose between one of 3 god powers. If you have been playing for a few years, you know there was a time we could choose 4 different god powers at the start of every match. But when you were here in 2018, you might remember that they even made 5 different god powers for every god. So when Godsunchained was still in beta in 2018, they had this idea to give every god 5 different god powers. Every god had 4 basic god powers, which were usable every turn, and 1 ultimate god power. These ultimate god powers were very strong, but to balance things out, you could only use them once every match. Let's start off with Lysander, who took over Teriel's place as the god of light with the launch of the Light's Verdict expansion. A similar version of Summon Acolyte and Lesser Heal is currently playable in Godsunchained. People who played in 2019 will probably recognize Chosen Visions. There used to be a god power named Heaven's Light in the game, but they thought Lysander's Honor would be a better fit. The ultimate god power you could pick for light was named Equinox, and it let you set all creatures on board, attack and health to 2. Let's have a look at nature. We still have Animal Bond currently in the game, although it's slightly different. Flourish is also still in the game, but now it heals 1 of your creatures for 1, instead of giving all friendly creatures randomly +2 health or attack. Leech Life is also still in the game, but now it's called Selena's Mark, and it deals just 1 damage. Forage is a god power also seen last year, and Nature's ultimate god power was 0 mana Wildness. All enemy creatures and creatures in the opponent's hands gain Confused. Refresh 2 mana crystals. Moving on to magic, we still have Clear Mind and Mage Bolt. The other 2 basic god powers were Discovery and Mnemonic. Discovery lets you delve a card from the top 3 cards of your deck, and Mnemonic lets you reduce by 2 the cost of a target spell in your hand that costs less mana than your total mana crystals. The ultimate god power was Manamancy. Most of you will probably recognize its card art from a Vow of Learning. Manamancy lets you pick 2 from 6 options. Summon a 4/4 creature, unlock 1 mana crystal, deal 4 damage, deal 2 damage to all enemy creatures, foresee 3 and draw 1, or draw 2 cards. War's god powers have changed quite a lot over the last years. The only basic god power they kept is Enrage. The other 2 god powers will be recognized by most people. Intense Training gave +2/+2 to a random creature in your hand, and the most controversial god power of this list has to be Onslaught. It used to give a creature Blitz, which was extremely good with Twin Strike, Protected and Deadly creatures. War's last basic god power is Clarion, summon a random warrior. They removed this god power eventually and changed it into a card named Mercenary Troop. Oro's ultimate god power was Slayer, give your god +5 attack this turn. When you pick Death as your god power, you could pick Soulburn, which is still in the game. Blood's Cry, which lets you destroy a friendly creature and draws you 2 cards. You could also pick Undying Wish. Deal 2 damage to your god, give a creature Afterlife, summon a 2/2 reanimated corpse. With Afterlife, summon a 2/2 reanimated ghoul. The 4th option was Reanimate. Destroy 2 target friendly creatures. Summon target creature from your void with the same combined mana cost or lower. Give this creature Soulless. Melissa's ultimate god power is Demise. Pick 1. Destroy target creature and deal 3 damage to your opponent's god. Destroy 2 target creatures. Destroy all creatures and deal 3 damage to your god. Last but not least is Deception. Thievery and Flip's names are still in the game. Thievery used to let you look at the top card of the opponent's deck and move it to the bottom of their deck and add the copy to the top of yours. Flip let you swap the attack and health of a target friendly creature, then give it +2 attack. Pawn let you move 3 random cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck and draw as many as you moved. They probably included that last line, so you couldn't draw 3 cards for 1 mana when your hand was empty. Memory Charm was in the game last year, but was completely different. In the beta, its text was: before their next draw, your opponent puts a card on the bottom of their deck, or takes 2 damage if they cannot. If you think this effect is cool, you should take a look at the Mastermind, a legendary Genesis card. Ludia's ultimate god power was pretty wild. Treachery lets each enemy creature fight a random enemy character. At the end of the turn, give them all sleep, which meant that they could all attack each other or might even go face. That brings us to the end of the quiz. Let me know how many questions you got right and if you would like to see more of these type of videos. Give the video a like and subscribe if you want to see the next video. I will see you next time.